In this video I'm restoring Honda C50, which was manufactured in 1980 but was first registered here in Ireland in 1981. So I have a good lot of the parts sorted now in terms of cleaning them off and repainting them. And I'm still working on the frame. There was a couple of small little holes here and there, so I'm just filling them at the moment. There are the wheels, which are not in too bad a condition. Just need to clean the tires. And checking all the parts on my book. This is the engine off of it, which is running, just needs to be cleaned off. Some more of the parts there that I still have to get to. More of them here. More there, and some more of them here, but I'm going to start putting the fender and the swing arm together now first. Right, I've just put those two little caps in at each side there, and I've installed the suspension at this side. I'm doing the other one at the other side now. The reason I did it before filming it was to show how to do it. So that needs to be pulled out. That needs to get up into position there. And this screw and lock nut must be put onto it. So I'm going to get that up there now, like so. And get that in there first, get the screw from this side in there and out through it, same as that there. That's the second suspension unit in there now, with the rubbers and stuff like that in as well. Now, in actual fact, it would be a lot easier to put this on if you could unscrew this nut in here and take the suspension out and have it installed as you push it up in there, but I couldn't actually take those bolts off. I was afraid I'd break them, so I left it as it was. So now I think I'll put on the mudguard next onto that. Now I've just put on the mudguard there. I had to undo those two nuts there. So that's that part of it done. I'm now going to make up brackets for and a number plate for the front of it. I'll make them myself. I'm just going putting on this shield piece here that goes on there, like so. It screws into that bolt in there, and that's it in place. So at the moment I'm working on brackets that I'm after making for the number plate. There'll be another one here at this stage, and then I'll cut a number plate for it. I've made up the two brackets there now to hold the number plate, and at present I'm cutting the number plate out of a piece of metal. So I just need to clean it off now, paint it and put the number on it. Now this is a new lock that I'm going to put on here. It's held in position with two screws. That's it. That's it in position there now. So I have the number plate cut out, and I have it painted, ready to go on now shortly. Now that's the number plate finished. Put on vinyl numbers on it and attached it onto the mudguard. Now I have the frame finished, painted. So that's it. Now I can start putting it back together soon. I've just installed the taillight. It takes two 5mm by about 17mm bolts. I'm using stainless steel ones. I've put some spring washers in as well, and the two wires come out that hole there. Now I have a lot of the parts got together here for putting the swing arm on to the main frame, so I just need to figure out exactly where everything goes before I start. Now I'm just starting on the swing arm there, putting on the ball bearings. I've put on grease, and there's 21. It says on the book that it's 6mm ball bearings, but 21 6mm ball bearings wouldn't fit there, so they're actually 5mm ball bearings, 21 of them. Now I have the 21 ball bearings in there. I've greased this under section of the swing arm section that it goes into. Now I think this is the next section to go on there, which will go on over the threaded area there. The next piece to go on now is this race that goes over here, and I must put in grease here, and 21 ball bearings again, 5mm. For the next part to put on, I have the cone in, and this it's kind of a cover, holds the grease and stuff in place. Like so. Now that's the next piece, put down over it, and two 8mm bolts, one at each side. I must check the size of them actually. Now I have those two bolts installed, one at each side. Now the next piece that goes on, I think, is this one here, and there's a large washer and the final nut. Actually there's this piece must go on as well. It goes on like that. This piece goes in there. Let's bolt that down now. Put in the washer and the final nut. Next thing now is the spacer and this final nut to hold the whole thing together. There's a special tool for that. I don't have it, but most people use a hammer and a screwdriver to tighten it through that hole and this hole here. But ideally the proper tool would be advisable. That's the nut in place there now. The swing arm works pretty good. Right, onto the handlebars next. I forgot this rubber, which goes around the bottom section of that there, so I'll have to take this off again and put the rubber back on. Now just there I've taken off the thing again, and I actually forgot to put on this plastic. It's better to put on this plastic piece now before you attach this piece, and that's where the rubber goes there. I'm after putting on the mechanism there that the seat swinging section attaches to. It goes on through that section there, but it's put on with an 8mm bolt. They're about 20mm long. It recommends on the book 16, but you're required to put a dome nut like this on the end of them, but I'm just putting ordinary nuts at the moment because I've only got 10mm dome nuts. They should be 8mm. These are the component parts now for the handlebars, and they're the rear indicators. So I must put all these together really before I put them back onto the bike. So the first thing to do is to attach this indicator unit, which has to go on there with 2 self-tapping screws, and the same at the other side. That's the other one there, and there are the self-tapping screws there. Now I'm feeding the indicator unit through here, and it'll go across there to connect to all the other wires, and the same at the other side. So this goes on next and screw down into the hole with these 2 small little screws. Now I'm going putting on the handlebars there. I have put on the indicators, and I've put in the speedo, put on the grips. I'm just looking at that there, it's actually cracked, so I'll have to take it off again, but I can do that when it's on. So the procedure here is number 18 is supposed to be a rubber, and number 19 is supposed to be a rubber, and these things here, they're not marked as to what they are, but they're these little cup saucer kind of things, and then 2 nuts to hold them in place. But they don't have anything about spring washers, and you definitely need spring washers to keep the handlebars on. So I'm attaching with 8mm nuts and spring washers, and I'm putting these other 2 washers inside as well. I'm not sure if they go there, but I'll put it on and see how I get on. Now the handlebars are on, and that's what it looks like. It's hard to see it. That plastic unit goes on there, and there's a screw goes through into the headlight there and there. So it's nicely tightened up now anyway. So what I'm going to do now is just put on the front wheel onto it for ease of moving it around the shed here. Now this is the brake lever in position with the long bar that goes through all the ways. I put in a washer here just to tighten things up slightly, and stainless steel cotter pin there so that it won't rust. Now I can turn it back up the right way. I've also put the front wheel on there. The wheel spindle goes through, and comes out the other end as a castle nut, and you must put on a circlip through the little hole. I'm using stainless steel items where I can, just to make sure they don't rust. Now I've just put on the front brake cable there, and I put on the speedo cable, and it's just connected in there yet. Now before you put on the handlebars, you have to put on the speedo cable, and you must put on the wiring harness as well. I've just put it on there now. I had to take the handlebars off to do it, because there's a maze of wires that actually come out through there, so you have to have the handlebars off to do it. Just after installing the headlight there, I haven't all the wires hooked up yet, but I'll deal with that later. That's going to take quite a bit of thinking. So I haven't the correct bolts for there. They should be the screw head ones, like those. Pan head, I think they call them. So that's it now at the present time. Now I'm just putting on the rear indicators there, just to be doing something. Push the wire through like so. Now the wire is through, and you have to line up, see the groove that's there on that. You must line the hole up with that and put a bolt through it. I have to check the size of the bolt. It looks like a 5 or a 6. So I'll do that now, and I'll put the other one on at the other side. I've just put on the ignition switch there with two 6 by about 12 to 15mm bolts, and the wire goes through that hole there, then out towards the battery. Right, so I can put the cover back on there now. There's nothing else to go on there as far as I can remember. Now, while I have the bike upside down, I'm actually putting in the wires that go to the taillight, which is a brown and a green. There's a brown and a green there coming from the taillight. So I've attached the brown and green. And the indicators is a light blue and orange, and they go back into the battery compartment. So I'll connect them up onto the indicators there. That's one of them. The other's at the other side. I'm not going to do anything on the wiring further up. I'm just showing this now because it has to be done before the wheel goes on. You can't put the wheel on otherwise. Right, I put on a little bit of fiberglass there just to keep the wires in place, and I riveted on a little strap there just to hold them all in place. Please ensure that you put in rubber grommets, whatever wires are going through metal, otherwise they could get frayed. And the part that actually holds the seat goes on like so, and this special bolt goes through. That's that. Let's put a washer and a nut on that there now, and probably a spring washer as well. Now I have the bike back up in its right position, and I'm just tidying up the wires there that came up through the indicators. The light blue, according to the book, is at this side, and the orange is at the right hand side. They'll all be covered by the seat. I got the dome nuts as well that I was waiting on, so I've put them on there. There's one at each side. Now I'm putting in the high tension cable, which goes in here under the tank, but it goes in through the battery section here, and it comes up through those two holes there. I must just deal with a couple of wires there now first. Right, I've just got it up through the two holes there. Now I must put on washers, and I think they're 6mm bolts. I'm going to use stainless steel ones. Now I'm just going to tighten down those bolts. I'm at putting on 2 spring washers or wave washers as well, just to make sure that it doesn't rock out of place. So that's one of them, and that's the other one. Now the next thing I'm going to put on is the petrol tank. You can put it on until the HT coil is in place. So I'm going to put that on now. I must put on 2 petrol hoses onto it first. Now I've put on the 2 hoses there with little clips to hold the petrol pipes in place. Now that's the petrol tank in place. I must put on the 4 bolts. There's 2 at each side, and the 2 petrol hoses come out there. Now I'm just after installing the front brake cable there, which goes up there, and it gets caught behind this piece that goes on the front there. I've also put in the speedo cable, and it's just connected down there at the bottom, and that goes up through here. So really it should go on before the handlebars go on. Also, I've put in the wiring harness, and ideally that should go on as well before you put on the handlebars. Now I've just put on that air filter unit there that goes on there. It sits onto the top of the carburetor and it goes onto the frame there. Now I've just installed the airbox rubber there and the airbox holding rod. Now I must put in the box itself with the air filter inside it, like so. And that comes out through there. So I must put a bolt on that there now. Now that's the box in place with the air filter itself, and a bolt to tighten it down there. And when the cover goes on, there's a dome nut goes on, and a special cover. This is the air filter cover here. That's a brand new one, so I've just put it on there at the moment just to get it off of the floor inside. And a washer and a little dome nut goes on. It doesn't go on until the leg shields go on after, but I can take it off. These are the shocks that were on the bike. I'm going to reuse them for the moment until I get new ones. And normally what I do is that I just replace this chrome section here, but I don't have ones to take them off at the moment, so I'm going to buy new ones and change them back when I'll get them. Now that's one of the suspensions in place. Dome nuts at the end there of each one. I'll put on the other one at the other side now. That's the second rear suspension in place there, and that's how the bike is looking at present. Now I'm going to put on the back wheel there. Just remember that the wiring to the taillight and the indicators must be done before you put on the back wheel, otherwise you'll be taking it off again. So I have the bolt that goes through. This is a spacer. It goes there. Chain tensioners, brake mechanism, and the little bolts. So I'd have to try and get it in underneath that now, which isn't easy. But we'll have a go at it anyway. Now that's the rear wheel on in position. The main bolt goes straight through. You have the chain tensioner, spacer, brake mechanism, the wheel, and at the other end there's a large nut which goes on to the rotary mechanism of the wheel, and I put in a washer there as well because I needed to, and the finish nut at the end here. I must drill a hole here and put in a circlip. There was no hole in that, so that's it in position. I now must put on the stabilizing bar here that goes on there. I must get that, and then I must put on the rear brake mechanism. It's down there. Now I'm just looking at the book, checking out. This is the stay. This bolt is already inside in the brake mechanism. So I've got 30, 32 and 34. 30 is an 8mm hexagon nut, which I've got. 32 is a plain 8mm washer. which I think is one of those. And number 34 is a 10mm spring washer. So that's what goes on there, and there's a little circlip on the outside. Now this is the mechanism for this linkage here. This hole is different to this one, so this hole goes in here, goes in over that there, and there's a spring that goes in here, and this goes on like that, and there's a cotter pin goes in there, and there's a washer and nut and stuff goes on here. It's probably a castle nut. I'll see if I have one. Okay, so the washer goes on first, the plain washer, like so, then the spring washer, and then the 8mm nut. Now this is the progress so far. Most of the things are done. It's time to put the engine on now. Now I'm working on the saddle there, and I bought what was supposed to be a C50 seat from somebody here in Ireland, a motorcycle shop, but it's way too big. I actually have, I think it's off of a Honda 90, and it actually goes well on that. So I was waiting for the postman to bring me this one, which I've just put on. Which I bought from America, and it fits perfectly. There's a few blemishes of runs of marker or something on it, but that's fine. We're not worried about that. It just looks very well now, and I must just put the strap on. That strap must go on it. Let's just finish it off inside. You have to clip it over all these clips to hold it in place. There are other clips then that hold this kind of a beading that goes on the end of it, but some of them are at the breaking off, but overall it's after turning out pretty good. So I can now put it on the bike. So that's our next job. I must put the catch back on. That's the catch back in place there now. I'll offer it up to the bike now and see how we fare out. Now that's the seat finished and in position. It looks pretty good. I'm a bit tight for space today because it's raining, so I haven't pulled out the car out of the way. My little car is in the shed, so but it looks pretty good now, thank you. Very pleased with it. This is the engine off of the bike here. I just need to do a bit of cleaning up on it before I put it back on. So I'm going to do that next. Now I have the engine cleaned off somewhat, and I'm going to get a trolley jack now and try and jack it up into position. It's not an easy thing to do on your own, but we'll have a cut off of it anyway. Now I've managed to put on the engine. There's one bolt there goes through and the other one there, and I've connected up the this air unit, goes onto the top of the carburetor and onto the frame there. So that's it. I must just tighten the other nut onto this here now. Now I've just installed the leg rests, and they're bolted up underneath with they're 8mm by about 25mm bolts, and I've put washers and spring washers on them to make sure it doesn't come off. And there's a side stand on it. I don't like the side stands myself, but it was on this one, so I'm just going to leave it. I must put on the rubbers here now next, one at each side. Now I've put on the rear brake mechanism here. I had to put some washers on here because the unit didn't fit exactly. And I've put on the spring onto the rear brake, and that's the rear brake light, which comes down and goes in there. I must just turn it up so that it doesn't come off. And at the moment I was just about to put on the exhaust holder, which is this washer, spring washer, and the nut. Goes on like so. So I must tighten that up now, and I have the engine on, so I can put on the exhaust pipe now as well. Now I have the exhaust pipe attached. There's a bracket that goes on there. You must put this bracket onto the exhaust pipe first because it's difficult to get it to line up, and then it goes in there with the two bolts, and you put in there's a kind of a washer that goes in there as well. I've just put on the plug onto the plug itself in the engine. I'm after connecting the petrol to the carburetor, and I'm after putting on filters to filter the fuel. They were the best ones that I had here at present, and I have the exhaust pipe fitted now as well, which is complete. So there's a lot of wires starting to build up here now. I've connected the wires over here. I had them marked so that I'd know what went back to what. So they're all connected. This wire, I don't know what it's for, but we'll figure it out. So that's it at the present time. I'm just putting on the I've just inserted the float into the plunger into the carburetor there as well, and I must connect the cable onto the throttle. Now I have the chain on there, and the link is in place. The opening section of the link must be at the back here, because this section must be in the line of rotation, which is the line of rotation is this way. Now I have the chain installed. The next thing to do now will be to put on this cover here and put on the chain guard, but I must clean them off and repaint them to the right colour. Now I'm after cleaning up and repainting the chain guard, and I have the bottom section attached already, so I'm going to put on the top section now. You have to use very short 6mm bolts here, because the bolt can't go beyond that mechanism there, otherwise it's catching the chain. And that one there can't be that long either. I think they're about 10 millimeters. To get the top chain guard on, you must undo this here and move it out of the way, otherwise you can't get it on. Now I have put on the top chain guard section and reattached the suspension. Now I have put on the rear foot pegs there that came in the shipment, and both sides I have put on the battery and connected up most of the wires. I've just put on the leg shields on the front there, so I must just put on the metal piece that goes on there. What did I do with it? It is here. But I'm not going to tie it up yet because I just have a little bit of issue with it over revving when it's starting. So I believe it's a problem with air vacuuming, so I need to get someone that really knows about these things to get it sorted. So that's basically it anyway. It's complete, other than just to tune up the engine. Now I've just brought it out of the shed there just to bring it out into the light, and that's my Honda C50. It's actually a C50zz 1980, and it's complete.